Hey guys, this is one of my favorite projects called Mercia messenger bag. I have quilted the main fabric and made this suitable for traveling, and the idea is to make a travel tote in the future. So when you're traveling and at the airport, and you can carry your passport and bare essentials in Mercia, which can be put into your cabin bag once you pass through the security. So it would be a matching set. And that's the whole idea behind this. Let me know what you think and let's get started.
Let's go through what we need to complete this project. We need some bias binding, 2 small D-rings and a magnetic clasp for the front of the bag. We have got the right pattern here, and this is a double-sided fusible interfacing. You need only for the front flap, and you also need a quilted fabric. I've taken a little bit extra so I can cut it off, and you also need the lining for that. This is the top of the bag. We only need a quilted fabric, not a lining. And here is the main part of the bag, that is the quilted fabric and the lining. This is cut on fold, it's the pocket, and this one is the top layer of the lining. So basically this and this are going to go in the same position for the lining and the quilted fabric. However, they're 2 different patterns because that's the way it will fit together. We also have a handle that's already made up. There's a separate video how to finish this handle, passing a webbing tape inside the handle, and also how to finish it with a bias ring at the end. We also have a little tab that the pattern is very small, and I have cut. This tab is not for the fabric, it is for the double-sided interfacing. You need 2 pieces of the same tab, and we're going to cover it with black fabric, and you need to take a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and prepare this, and then we're going to go and sew the zipper. Here I have 2 open end zippers because we're going to cut off the excess, and one I'm going to use it for the top of the bag, the other one we're going to use it for the pocket in the center. Here are the little 2 tabs that's going to go in the front. Now we need to place about 1 inch away from the edge on the top. We only need a little extra around, but on the top here you need about 1 inch or a little bit more. So I'm going to place it like so, and then by holding it we're going to turn this over and then press it with a hot iron. Same way we're going to do this one as well. Now we need to trim the excess off on these sides. Leave about between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. And now what we need to do is go and press this, so this would go and attach itself like so. Here are the 2 tabs that are ready. Basically we're going to go and place one on top of the other like so, and go and sew an edge stitch. Before we do that, we need to put one of these attachments. Now it's entirely up to you. You could use this one. This is what they use for the top, but I'm going to use this at the bottom simply because it's got that little extra. It's about probably 2/8 of an inch thick, and we need to sew, and this is going to kind of become a hindrance while sewing. So I'm going to use this one for the top. We're going to turn this over like so and basically make a marking. Basically hold it like so, it's very fiddly, and just make a marking. So we couldn't just make a little cut mark. Basically I'm just going to make a little score mark, so we can put this in like that, and then we're going to use this attachment on the opposite side like so, and you could either press it inside or press it out. So basically with the help of a plier you're just going to go and press this. I'm going to press this by hand like so. Basically that's how it looks, and now this is going to be placed into the bag exactly the same way, and that's going to go and hold like that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to place it on top of the other like so, and go on edge stitch all around. That way it's covered both ways. That is where the tab is. I'm gonna sew from the opposite side because I want to see on the top where I'm sewing. So I'm using the edge stitching foot, and The next thing is we need to go and prepare the flap. So basically this is a double-sided interfacing. So we're going to turn it over like so and iron it from the opposite side. We have taken a little extra fabric, so now we go ahead and cut it as per the pattern. We're now going to place this flap on top of the quilted panel. My quilted panel is slightly larger than what I need, so we're going to go and sew an edge stitch on all four sides. I'm using my edge stitching foot, so my stitching will be quite close to the edge. Make sure that your fabric is kind of quite flat, otherwise you'll end up making wrinkle in the end. So there's the piece that we have just kind of done an edge stitch. So let's go ahead and trim all the excess off. Now we need to go and bind this with a black bias binding. You could also use a self-colored one. Before we do that, we need to attach this tab. This is the longer side of the flap, so on the shorter width of the flap we're going to go and center it like so. Remember, we left a little bit of extra fabric. Now this flap needs to kind of sit like that when it's all finished, but we're going to bind it with the bias binding, so we need a little bit more kind of room here. So if I show you, we need to go and place it so the binding is going to sit like so, and then after the binding this should bend properly, because if you sew on the interfacing then it's not going to bend, it's going to create issues. So you need to position it in such a way that it's going to bend properly even after the binding is attached. Okay, so that looks sort of perfect to me. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and sew a stitch and then trim the excess off. Just going to go and attach this. I'm going to leave my edge stitching foot like so, because this is just a stay stitch. There's a tab now attached, so I'm just going to go and trim the excess off like that. That's how the flap looks, and now we need to go and bind it with the bias binding. I've taken the bias binding a little bit extra than what we need. Okay, here is your bias binding, and the bias binding is folded into half and I've ironed it. We're going to take it like so and leave about so much, because we need to join the beginning when we come and finish it. So I'm just going to fold it like that and take it underneath your machine, and we're going to fold it on either side, because then the stitching will be neat. If we do it one at a time, then you won't match the stitching on the top and the bottom. It's very important, because this is something that's got to be neat from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to keep my stitch to longest, and we're going to go and sew an edge stitch. So now we need to miter the corner. So we go and sew all the way till the end. Lift your presser foot up, release the needle, and now we're going to go like so. And now what you need to do is, if you fold your binding, you will see it has mitered the corner properly. So let me just put the thread away, and the best way to do this would be just to go back and sew a couple of stitches so we have the continuation to do it. And once it touches the corner, we're going to turn this over and again come all the way till the end. Lift your presser foot up, and now we're going to do the same thing, turning the corners, and that's the same procedure you do on all the four corners.
So now after I folded it, I'm going to go back this side and just do a couple of stitches and then turn over. Okay, before we go ahead and finish it, we need to make sure how much we need, because this joint needs to be really neat. So basically I have mitered the two corners, and this corner I have sewn in till the end. And now we need to go and measure these two like so. And then you see the beginning here, and exactly an inch from the beginning you need to make a mark. So take your measuring tape, because we're going to sew a 1/2 inch stitch. So exactly from that joint you make an inch away from here. So just make that marking, and that's the cutting line. So we just go ahead and cut that. And now what we're going to do is open this seam here. If you want to, you can open a little bit more stitches here so it's easy to sew. And we're going to go and sew a 1/2 inch seam like that. That way it's going to fit perfectly. Okay, let's go ahead and join these two here. So it's a little bit tricky, you might have to open it a little bit more, but I'm just going to do it just like that. It's got to be a 1/2 inch stitch, and you got to make sure it's straight. Okay, my seam looked like it bunched up earlier, but it's absolutely fine. It was a thread pulling from the back. So basically now we need to go and finish the seam exactly like how we did before, turning these corners in. So let me go ahead and start again, a couple of millimeters away, a couple of stitches away from there, turn my corners in. When you come to your final corner, you might have to go and do a little bit of pressing, because you really can't go and join right till the end, because this won't allow, because the binding is in your way. So let me just go and iron this first, and then we come back and finish this. So we're just going to go and iron it till the end, and then we need to just hold it like so on both the corners and make sure the miter corner is right. So now we go ahead and finish that seam. Okay, we're going to go back a couple of stitches and start where we left off, and just make sure it's holding up properly. There's our flap that's neatly turned in. We need to open this tab up and just go and make a stitch just at the edge of the binding. We're going to go and stitch starting from here to here, otherwise it can fold inside. So we're just going to go and place it like so and just sew a stitch on top. The flap is now ready. This is going to sit like that. This is going to go on the back of the bag, and we're going to sew a top stitch like here, like so, and turn over, and this magnetic clasp is going to go and place itself to the other side of the magnetic clasp. The next step is we're going to go and sew the zipper. So before we do that, we need 2 strips of bias binding to the length of your main panel for both sides. Now open this one up like so, and this is the top panel, this is the bottom panel, this is the base of the bag. Here is your zipper pocket, and what we're going to do, though this is cut on fold, we're just going to go and open it in the center. We're going to close it later, but we need to open it for now. So basically we're going to go and let's take this to the opposite side, and I'm going to place one side of the pocket, like so,
and the other side of the pocket like that. Okay, now you can either pin it, tack it, or do a stitch if you want to. And once you've done that, we're going to fold this bias binding into half and just go ahead and bind this edge on both the sides. Though I have pinned it, I want to go and sew a edge stitch so that this stays in place before I sew my bias binding. So let me just go ahead and do an edge stitch. Here is the panel we have just sewn, and you will see that the fabric kind of moved away from the quilted panel. And even though this bit, if you match it, this is matching perfectly, but it kind of pushes away, and this happens when you sew on a normal foot. If you have a walking foot, you can use that. I haven't got one at the minute, so I'm going to find other way to do it. So I have got the other side of the pocket, so I'm going to try and do the stitching from this side. If this doesn't work, then we'll have to find other way to finish it. So I'm going to place it from this side and just do a net stitch. We have gone and sewed from the lining side, and this is now sitting perfectly. I need to go and remove this and do this side exactly the same like here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and once we've done that, we need to bind this with bias binding. So fold your bias binding into half like so, and just go ahead and place it like that, and go and sew a stitch starting and finishing with a back stitch. And we're going to do this on both the panels. So again, I'm sewing from the lining side, so I just fold this into half like so, and here is the two panels with bias binding attached at the end, and that's the lining side. Now we need to go ahead and attach the zipper. So we're going to place the zipper like so, and start about 1/2 inch away from the beginning of the zipper, so that will go into the seam allowance, that 1/2 inch. We're going to place it like so, and go ahead and kind of put a stitch at the edge of the binding, so the edge of the binding will be sitting next to the zipper tape. Okay, here I have the beginning of the zipper, just 1/2 inch or just a little bit away from the edge. So I'm just going to start an edge stitch like so. So now I'm going to start from the other end, matching the end of the fabric together. And now I've closed my zip, and I'm going to open it somewhere halfway through. So just going to put my zipper puller back so I can sew easily. Okay, there's the zipper, and that's how it looks from the other side. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go and close this lining and just put a stitch across here, and we would let this fall underneath like so. So that way, when you open your bag, the pocket will be on this side. Just going to go and sew a 1/4 inch stitch, starting and finishing with a back stitch. Now this part is now ready. We need to prepare the lining. So your lining comes in 2 parts. They are not identical to the main fabric, especially this part, the top part. So basically go ahead and join with a 1/2 inch seam, and starting and finishing with a back stitch. Now when you have joined it, then this panel should match the main fabric. Okay, if there might be a little bit of excess, which we're going to trim later on, and I'll show you how to do that. Also at the same stage, if you want to add a zipper inside the bag, this is the time to do so. I have already shown you on one of my free projects, hide in a seam zipper. Go ahead and do that if you want to add a pouch and a little zipper at this stage, and that would be very handy to have a zipper inside pocket. Here's the seam join that we've made on the lining, and let's just go ahead and open the seams. Now we go and place the lining on top of the main fabric, and that is almost matching perfectly. Before we go ahead and attach the lining, we need to fold it into half like so and match these little rectangle corners that you have at the bottom. And you have to make sure that this panel, the bottom panel, is the same as the top panel. Now the bottom panel is coming a little bit extra because
we have come to the end of part 1 of this bag Mercia. Please click the link below for part 2.